And this is where the gentleman was shot.
The day before I got to the West Bank, 3 people were killed by Israeli settlers. So once I arrived, we attended the mourning services. It's basically where all the women in the village of Tormasiah, they go to the houses of the wives, the daughters, the family of the people who just got killed. They call them martyrs. And they essentially offer their condolences, pay their respects. They offer support, and they oftentimes are just sitting there kind of in silence with the family members who just lost their loved ones, usually in a pretty violent way. Even though it was terribly sad, it was a really beautiful tradition to witness and to see the village coming together. These types of mourning services have become part of daily life in the West Bank. Men, women, and children are constantly being murdered by either Israeli settlers in these settler attacks or by the IDF. According to the United Nations, over 1,000 Palestinians have been murdered in the West Bank since October of 2023, and over a quarter of them were children. Despite all of those deaths, no one has been criminally charged. You hear the death toll numbers, you see the headlines, but what does that actually look like? Well, let's go through it case by case. Last year, a 14-year-old born and raised in New Jersey was killed by the IDF. They said he was throwing rocks, but instead of arresting him, they just shot him 21 times. The US said it was seeking more information, and a lawmaker who represented the kids' district spoke out about it. Yet still no one's been held responsible, not in his case and not in the cases of any of the 9 American citizens who have been killed in the West Bank since January of 2022. Another case, in 2022, a 78-year-old Palestinian American was detained by Israeli soldiers during a late-night raid. He was handcuffed, gagged, and left outside in the cold. He died. In this case, the US did call for a criminal investigation, but the Israeli military acknowledged that they had some serious failures, yet no criminal charges were filed. That same year, a veteran journalist with Al Jazeera, who's also an American citizen, was shot and killed while reporting. The US said gunfire from Israeli positions was likely responsible, but Israel said it was unintentional. Again, no criminal prosecution. And it's worth pausing here for a second, because when other countries harm or detain Americans, the response looks a little bit different. When Otto Warmbier, and God rest his soul, was detained in North Korea and returned to the US in a coma and died days later, his case triggered global outrage. The US even barred Americans from traveling to North Korea at that point. And later that year, President Trump even invoked Otto's name when redesignating North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism, which I think is how these cases should be handled. It should spark global outrage. It should spark attention from the President of the United States when Americans are being harmed and killed in other countries. Looking at these cases where Americans are being killed in the West Bank, Palestinians are being killed at these insane numbers, and Israel has not faced consequences for any of it from the US government. And then there are the cases that barely make the headlines. Just this month, police killed a Palestinian family of 4 in the West Bank, including 2 young brothers, ages 5 and 7. Nobody's been charged. And beyond these high-profile cases, there are hundreds more that just never break through internationally. Farmers shot, villages attacked, people killed during military raids, and again, these cases are closed or they just go nowhere. And this is where the story shifted for me, because it isn't about how many people are killed. It's about what happens after, or doesn't happen in this case. When more than 1,000 Palestinians are dead and Americans are among those victims and nobody's being held criminally responsible, you're not just looking at random acts of violence. You're looking at a system where accountability is the exception, not the rule. I'm Emma Withrow, and this is episode 3 of my independent reporting series from the West Bank.